Today's video is all about drawing heads. More importantly, this video showcases a method to drawing heads that really isn't talked about or that I haven't seen many videos on. It's essentially a shorthanded version of the Loomis method that I believe is the best method out there, honestly, to draw heads. Now, the reason I'm not drawing anything in here is because I don't believe that I'm good enough to really teach you guys how to do this, so I'll let the pros handle it, but I'll explain it to you guys from what I've seen from my own observations. So immediately, if you notice something, you can see that David Finch is not drawing a head from a circle, because truthfully, that does not work. I know that method is always talked about and it's always recommended to beginners, but honestly, I think it's one of the worst methods you can honestly learn. I think learning the shorthanded version like this, but learning the Loomis method proportions is probably the best way you can construct a head from start to finish. So essentially what I'm saying is, do an oval shape like this instead of a circle and build your head from the ground up from there with the proportion lines, making sure everything's in check. It's honestly so rare that a professional comic book artist really does draw a head starting from a circle. From my observations watching these clips, it always seems that he starts with outermost side of the head and then the direction where the face is going to be looking, adding in the ear, making sure everything is all proportionally correct, and so on and so forth. I'll explain the proportions of a head towards the end of this video because that might take a couple minutes, so I'll just let you guys watch this and see how he does it. So upcoming is a proper clip of David Finch explaining his heads. I do apologize for the quality. I pulled it off of his stream, so apologies for that.
All right, so I'm going to draw my standard head. And my standard when I'm doing this is basically 3/4. And the reason for that is because if you draw a head directly on, it's so easy to get askew. I don't want to do that in front of all you guys. So I just do this. This is like my easiest angle to draw a head. So here's my ear. It's enough. I've got an eye here, a brow, my nose. By the way, I should have put these in. This is my division for my brow, division for my forehead, nose, and chin. And so my mouth is going to be here between my eyes. And so there's a basic head drawn very basically. And there's really no personality to it. It's barely a face actually at this point, truthfully. But the point is that there's a basic head. And so now I want this to look like a particular character. I'm going to lighten this down to give myself a little bit to work with, and I'm going to make this into Wolverine.
So now we're going to take a quick little break, and I'm going to break down the proportions of a proper male head with you guys. Don't forget that these proportions and measurements apply also to the female head. It's just the female head is a little bit softer, and I can make that video for another day. So you're always told to divide the head into threes, essentially. The space from the eyebrows to the nose and then to the chin. That's your main area. But you always end up either with too short of a forehead or too big of a forehead.
Hey, Viola. I'm just playing.
You better hide that big ass forehead.
I was just joking.
So I actually divide the head into fours. The same distance from the eyebrows to the nose. Also, keep that the same distance from the eyebrows to the top of the forehead. That way, you always have a consistent sized head and forehead. There are a little bit of tips and tricks that I've learned over, the years of practicing heads, and here are a couple of them. The ears fit in the distance from the eyebrows to the nose, from the edges of your chin upward. If you make a line where it crosses with your eyebrows, that's where your eyes should be, sitting underneath the eyebrows. That way, your eyes are always evenly spaced. And then another tip that coincides with that last tip, your mouth will always sit in between those lines for the eyes, making sure your lips are always the same size. And another tip is that your jaw, where it hinges to your skull, always sits in front of the ear, as shown in the side profile. Another thing to always remember is that the head is not a flat square. So if you look at the side of the front profile, you can see those little indents on the front of the face. You might be wondering what that is. What that is the indents for the temples So don't forget, on certain angles, there will always be the front of the skull, the temple, is smaller than the back of the head. Now, if you're struggling on how big to make your eyes, which I always have that problem, the front of the face should always be as wide as 5 eyes. So that means your eyes should always fit in the second and fourth square. And another thing to keep in mind, obviously, that faces all look differently. So let's say Wolverine, he would have a shorter nose than Bruce Wayne. Or you take Hulk, for example. Hulk would have a much bigger brow ridge compared to somebody like Mr. Fantastic. And even somebody like Joker having a more slender, long chin compared to somebody like Kingpin. Faces obviously vary from person to person, and it's always good to make sure you vary these faces, but you need to understand the proper proportions first before you start going and playing around with caricatures or different character faces. But that's my very quick breakdown of head proportions and little tips and tricks that I've learned over the years from practicing heads. So without further ado, let's get on with the video.
I'm not going to draw the features. I'll just draw a head. Here's my center line, brow line, my nose line, my chin line. And so this is a 3/4 view of a head. Really, really, really simple construction for this. Depending on how much information you'd like to have before you start drawing in your features, you might want more, but that's what we're using for this. And so I've got a 3/4. And really all this means is that as I draw the ear, which is going to be in here, slightly back, I'm going to start with my this piece right here. Draw my top curve around. Basically what I'm doing, I can see more than I would see from the front and less than I would see from the exact side. That's going to connect in here. I like that overlap. That puts this one in front. And there we go. Super fast. And I'm going to point out, actually, as I do this, I'm going to actually tighten this face up a little bit because I have something I really want to show you. And then I'll show you exactly a use case for why this is so nice to get the hang of. So here's an eye. It's a little high. There's an eye. There's my brow. My nose. Super fast. And you might be thinking, am I sure that my ear is exactly where it needs to be? Is it too close to the eyes? Or is it too far away? That's a problem I see very, very often with people's artwork. When it comes to 3/4 angles or more odd angles, the ear starts to drift away into some odd places. And so the easiest way to know that your ear is in the right spot, if you have hair, your hair would kind of start here, angles up here, and this is for a guy, but I mean, really, it's the same basic thing for a girl. Just have long hair around it. And so there's my hairline. And you can see just about how much space I have here. And so from here, I want to do basically the same thing. So here's my hairline. And I've got just about that kind of a space right there. On top of my hairline here. And I know my ear is in the right spot because I don't have a ridiculously extended part right here, I guess, bit of hair here, and I don't have to shorten it. And I've actually had that happen where I draw the ear in and then I just don't really have enough space for the hair, and I don't piece together that I've drawn my ear in the wrong spot until I do that. And so I've kind of made it a habit of just using that as just a quick mental guide to make sure that I've got my ear in the right spot. And here is a use case scenario.
Here we go. 3/4 head. A 3/4 is basically like this. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw generally the shape of the head that I want. I know what the shape of head is. So, Michael.
Yeah, that chicken.
Oh, okay. And now that I've got something, basically this is about the size that I want, I'm going to draw a line down the center for my eyes, a line here. This would be the center of my face. And so I'm doing a 3/4 angle. So obviously this side is going to be much shorter than this side. And that'll be the near side. I'm going to put my chin just about here. And before I really divide things, it's not so mathematical yet. Anyway, my ear's here, which goes basically at the center from the side. You have a ball like this. Here's the center of my head. Here's my ear. Here's my face. And this is so badly drawn, but there you go. But from this side, your ear would be basically here. And so my eyes are going to line up here and here. I will say there's a certain amount of like, where does let's get there before I describe it. So here's one eye, my brow, my nose is here, and my eyes are in sockets. So you really want to bear that in mind. So it's, I'm going to draw my other socket here, and they're like a convex kind of a shape. And so the eyes rest in there. And so it should recess inside that space there. My nose will be here. I've got an even division here to here, and then another division to here, and another one. These are all even. My nose is going to be here. There we go. My mouth, just about there, about halfway down, maybe a little higher. And so there you go. That's how I would construct a 3/4 head. This is very much the Andrew Loomis method. You can find Andrew Loomis's books online for free. So just look up Andrew Loomis. It's Loomis. And he breaks these down from all kinds of different angles really, really well. This is where I learned this from How to Draw Comics in Marvel Way. So basically John Buscema and Andrew Loomis. There you go. And now the shoulders. So I'm going to draw the neck from the side. The neck comes basically out of the center of the head. So like this. And you've got a long muscle that comes from the ear down to the front here. And your shoulder, here's your clavicle. Connects just about along like this, and your shoulder sits in that space there. Like that. And so from the side, from 3/4, I'm going to draw that muscle. The muscle on the other side. I'm connecting the other side. My ear, you can't see it, but it would be about here. So there you go.
From all of the examples that I've shown, you can clearly see that David Finch starts his heads normally with an oval shape or a couple directional lines. So my best advice is to always start with an oval shape, not a circle. An oval is how they recommend it to be done in How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, and that's the way I think you guys should also learn. An oval is much more human-like than a circle. And I'll even show you guys a quick snippet of how Bart Sears does it.
Hi, I'm Bart Sears. I'm going to draw a quick Conan head sketch on this OA Expo artist sketch card. Alright. With any head, you have to know the proportions of the character you're drawing underneath. Conan's head's a little square. Diaz nose, he's got a busted nose, but it's a big one. He's going to have a lot of wild hair. He's going to be, of course, not extremely happy.
So that's the video. I hope this helped you, because I came to this revelation just a couple days ago. I always knew that the Loomis method, starting with the ball and the line, just never worked for me, like at all. And I saw that complaint not only from myself, but also other beginner artists or guys that were just learning. But what did work was drawing these methods like this and kind of neglecting Loomis's construction, but keeping his proportional guide in check at all times. So that's the one thing I honestly think is the best with Loomis is the proportions, but his construction from start to finish to a head isn't good. It's not beginner friendly in the slightest. I really don't believe that. Editor Kalen here. I totally forgot to talk about the mathematical approach to the Loomis method, which makes me dislike it even more. All of these measurements and mathematical lines or the quarters, whatever, I think is very overwhelming for a beginner artist especially. And going back to what I was saying earlier, I think a circle is just not a proper shape to use for a human head, which is more oval-like. I just think that the Loomis method is way too overcomplicated and mathematical for a beginner to really pick up, especially in comic books. Like when I first started drawing, I practiced it, and always the same thing happened where I couldn't draw from a circle to construct a head that way. Even now that I'm a little bit better, doing drawings like this compared to these, I still can't draw a head from a circle. It's always in this shape. So I thought I would just share this with you guys because I don't really see this method talked about. It's more so just observation from watching professional comic book artists. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. And I hope that this video really did help you in one way or another. So I'll see you guys in the next one.